Good morning. Okay, now that we just ended the second triumvirate and all the drama that was there, and Octavian has just declared himself Emperor of Rome, we need to talk about what he does next. Okay, like what happens in Rome afterward. When Octavian becomes emperor, remember he changes his name. That was one of your vocab words, Augustus, right? Well, Augustus means something very specific. It means the one who should be exalted. Okay, so exalted means worshipped, basically. Y'all, Augustus basically makes the emperor a living god. Okay, so now with the other polytheistic gods in all the different religions of Rome, you are now expected to basically worship the emperor as well as a god. And if you don't, ooh, that's bad. Keep that in mind. Yeah? Okay. Now, we have moved to an empire, okay, which means we're back to like kings, hereditary rule, all that good stuff. All right. If there isn't a son or whatever, then the emperor would choose who the next person's going to be. Okay. Of course, there were issues. Of course, there was, what's it called? Infighting, stuff like that. But, you know, that's how the succession line is going to go. All right. During this time period, I hit the button, it didn't go. During this time period, we enter something called the Pax Romana. The Pax Romana, okay, the Pax Romana is this time, my big old head, of roughly like 100-ish years of relative calm and peace in Rome. Okay, now it is not, the Roman Empire is not fighting anywhere and taking over things. Rome's still fighting and taking over things. Okay. What this is it's a calm to all of the political drama that has been going on ever since, even before the Gracchus brothers. Okay. All of the political drama with the first triumvirate, the second triumvirate, all of that craziness, Julius Caesar as dictator, all that drama. Okay. This is a calm to that. So you have like a peace as far as politics goes. You have a fairly, like, I don't know, calmness in the empire as a whole, but we do still have the military going out and taking over stuff. And you'll see that in a minute. Okie dokie. So that being said, they go through a lot of like building things during this time period too. All right. They're building like crazy. Now, we've already talked about some of this stuff, but one of the big things that Rome is known for is the arch. This right here. You all know what an arch is. We talked about it actually when we talked about Greece, and we looked at their more like rectangular and square structures. And we talked about, if you remember, the fact that arches, arches for whatever reason, and y'all, I am not an engineer. I don't know the physics behind it. Don't know, honestly, don't care. But for whatever reason, an arch holds a lot more weight, okay, than just a square or rectangle. So you start seeing a bunch of arches here all over Rome, okay? They also start building a crap load of aqueducts. An aqueduct is something that can take water from over here, I don't know, a lake or something, and bring it over here to a city. Think of it like a cooler level, a more high-tech level of irrigation. Okay. And what you're seeing here, by the way, with the aqueduct bridge, that's what this is down here. Just so you know, that's what this is. Okay. They're also, let me move my head. Oh, I guess I don't have to. They're also making a whole lot of roads to connect the whole empire. And their roads are impressive. In parts of Europe, their roads are still around and intact. It looks really good. I've walked on them, and I will tell y'all, I'm such a nerd that I was like, oh my gosh, this is at least a 2,000-year-old road. I know, you're like, who cares? But I thought it was cool. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, look at this. Really well done. Yeah. So they're just building like crazy. Oh, I forgot something big that gets built during this era of Rome. You know, the Colosseum. the Colosseum where, fights took place, the gladiatorial games and stuff. This is where a whole lot of people were like thrown into the Colosseum and forced to fight for their lives, or um, sorry, or animals ripped them apart, all kinds of good stuff. They had chariot races in here. They had, oddly enough, they could fill that sucker up, and they had bull races. What? They would like recreate past wars that they had, especially the Punic Wars. That was a big one. They loved doing that. This is just pastime for the Romans. Now, a little side note here. You see all the arches here, okay? And we looked it up in some class. This could seat roughly 80,000 back then. I don't know. But do you see this, y'all? That used to be complete. It used to be all the way complete. I mean, it's 2,000 years old, tectonics in the area, it's been destroyed, but it wasn't supposed to be like this. Okay. It used to be complete. It used to go all the way around. This right here shows you what it would have looked like on the inside. You see all the people. This is where you see in this picture, it looks like a fight's happening down there. This right here is showing you the underneath. The underneath was where animals were kept. It's where like the gladiatorial slaves, like their cells were kept. It's like think of it like I don't know, the locker rooms, okay, today. And then this is what it actually looks like on the inside today. You're seeing the underneath here, okay? This is what it looks like on the inside today. Again, it's fallen apart. It isn't the way it used to be back then, but it's still fairly well preserved, okay? Now, as far as expansion, during the Empire time period, not just the Pax Romana, but the Empire. Oh, I just put my head in the wrong place. There we go. They're going to expand quite a bit. If you remember, they had already started taking this stuff, and they got this after the whole Cleopatra, Mark Antony drama. But they're going to come in and take over here, okay, an area called Palestine. And then they've already taken parts of this, okay, but it's going to get more taken, and they're going to keep coming up here basically all the way to this river right here, the Danube River. Okay, this area matters for the fall of Rome. Look how many rivers are right there. This area right here, tons of rivers. Now there's mountains here too. Well, kind of more over here, but that's okay. But it's really good like farmland. And there's a Germanic tribe. We'll talk more about those in like the next couple of videos, but there's a Germanic tribe from up here that has moved down into here. They're called the Goths. You're going to have the Goths split into two different groups. The Ostrogoths, Ostra means east, and the Visigoths, who are going to become the Western Goths. Basically, right now at this time, they're living fairly peaceful with the Romans. Fairly peaceful. Of course, there's revolts, there's uprisings, things like that, but fairly peaceful with the Romans. And they're providing a whole lot of crops and food and stuff, kind of in the form of taxes to Rome. Okay. The Romans will start asking for more and more and more of those crops. And I don't want to say the word asking. I said asking. That's not true. They're going to start demanding more and more and more of those crops. So much so that the Visigoths especially are going to start to starve in many cases. By the time we get to the 400s, which we are not there yet, okay? We're still like in the first century, all right? But by the time we get to the 400s, the Visigoths are mad at Rome. A lot of uprisings, a lot of revolts, and it kind of starts here when they start providing all of these crops, again in the form of taxes, but all of these crops to help feed Rome. Okay, just remember that, because we're coming back to it. The Visigoths are going to come with a vengeance. Just saying. Okay, and then you see up here during the Empire period, they're going to start going into Britannia is what it was called back then. But they're going to start going into Britain. They're going to fight all these different peoples here, subject them, They do stop right up here, kind of where Scotland is. They're afraid of the Scots and the Picts. Those are peoples that live up there. But they're going to stop up there, and they will even build a wall right there. It still exists in places up there. It's called Hadrian's Wall because he was the emperor. But still, so this is pretty impressive as far as like the Roman Empire. They have total control of the what is that? The Mediterranean Sea. I almost said the Middle East. That is not right. They have total control of the Middle East. Nice. All that land, it does cause problems though. We'll deal with it later, but it does start causing problems. That is a big empire. And today, it's not so hard to control an area of land that big because we have like fast computers, internet, communication. Back then, the emperor here has absolutely no idea what's going on in Britannia. By the time the Romans up here come down and tell them what's happening, it's too late. The same is true over here. They have no idea what's happening over here in Palestine until it's kind of too late. Same is true over here. It's getting really big as far as communication and being able to control the people in that area. So remember that because it's going to come back and bite them in the booty. Okay. I don't know why the page won't just move. It did on my old laptop. It doesn't on this one. Okay. I'll move my head down here for a little bit and then I'll move it up. In Rome, society, all right, it's no different than what you already know. Patriarchal. The man is in charge. Now, women do have some rights in Rome. That's good, but it's patriarchal. Um, the what's it called? The head of the family is called the pater familias. Pater meaning like father, patra, father. So it's like the father of the family. Now, it's not actually always the father. If the father is too old or the father is like not all there anymore or there isn't a father, then it's going to go to whichever is the most competent son. If there is no father, then it would go to the brother who's in charge of the family or whatever. Okay. It might be the grandfather, not the father. It doesn't matter. But paterfamilias is just the man in charge of the house. Even though, again, technically it means father of the family. Just remember it wasn't always dad. Okay. The women. Of course, this is no surprise. This is the way it is almost everywhere else. The women are below the men. Of course, they mostly take care of the house, take care of the kids, take care of the husband. However, they do have some rights. Women, I had a student waving at me, sorry. Women can own land. Okay, they can't buy land. That's weird. But they can inherit land. So if your husband dies, you can inherit his land. If your father dies and you're a woman, you can inherit his land. If your brother dies and he gives it to you, you can inherit it, but you can't actually buy it. Okay. Women could divorce if they wanted. So they do have some rights, not a lot. So, okay, I'm going to move my head up here now so we can talk about slaves. We've talked about this before. Slavery is nothing new at all in Rome or anywhere, honestly. The Romans have slaves. We already talked about in Athens, they were like a third of the whole population slaves. Slavery is nothing new. Slavery in Rome is weird. They're going to have a huge number of slaves, but part of that is because they're so freaking big, also. Okay. But not only that, they have a huge number of slaves because one of the things that can, like, I don't know, put you into slavery is going into debt to somebody. If you go into debt to somebody and you cannot pay it off and they are calling the loan, they want their money back, they can put you into slavery until you work it off. So it's weird because you could be a free man or a woman, whatever. Okay, you could be a free man and then be a slave for a while and then work your way out and be a free man again. You don't always have to like live in the master's house. They don't even have like a master like you think of like modern day, not modern day slavery, but you know what I mean, like 1600 slavery. um it's not the same. Your kids might not be slaves if you are. Just because you're a slave doesn't mean your wife is automatically a slave. It's weird. You can work your way out. Um, One of the biggest steel slaves were the gladiators. There were some gladiators that weren't slaves, but very few. Most gladiators were slaves who were like sold to be a gladiator. Okay. And of course, you would like to keep your life, so you're going to fight as hard as you can. So slavery in Rome was weird. And because of that, because you could be free, be a slave, be free, they have this massive number of slaves because there's always people moving in and out of who's a slave and who's not. So slaves, more than we've seen so far. And we said that about Athens. We said, oh my gosh, this is more than we've seen so far. Now Rome, more than we've seen so far. Okay. Of course, it'll get bigger later. But all right. As far as the Roman religion, a piece of hair, medium, probably my hair. Y'all, there is not one specific religion for the entire Roman Empire. What the Roman people were to begin with was basically Greek mythology. It was just kind of Romanized. When we talked about Greece in the last unit, we talked about the mythology. We talked about all the big deal gods. We talked about even the first level of gods, the second level of gods. Um, Rome has the same basic stories. Zeus, but they don't call him Zeus, they call him Jupiter. Let's see, I'm trying to think of them and I can't. I guess I can. Oh, Poseidon, duh. Neptune, Hades, Pluto. I can't think of the other ones. Oh, Ares, god of war. I'm trying to think of who we talked about. Ares, god of war. In Rome, he is Mars. Aphrodite, goddess of love, beauty, all that lovely stuff. She is Venus in Rome. Are those the only ones we talked about? Maybe, maybe. But anyway, it's the same kind of, except the stories are a little bit Romanized, a little bit changed to fit their culture, not just Greek culture. Okay. Now, once Rome starts taking over other people groups, they don't force their religion on other people. Okay. They're like in Egypt, the Egyptians can keep their religion. They can keep worshiping. I don't know. I can't think Anubis and oh my gosh, my brain. You know all the Egyptian gods. What the heck? Horus, Osiris, Isis. Okay, there we go. I'm getting there. I'm getting on the level now. But anyway, they can keep worshiping their Egyptian gods. That's fine. Rome does not care. In as they're taking over, like the Visigoths, going north, getting into the Germanic peoples. The Germanic peoples can keep their polytheistic ideas, their polytheistic religions. They don't force their Greek Romanized religion on people. They're like, whatever, we don't care. Worship who you want. Until when they go into Palestine, which is right here, okay, over here. When they go into Palestine, they run into the people called the Hebrews, the Jews, all right, Judaism. You should have already learned that in previous years. The Jews worship Jehovah, God. The idea with the Jews, like the very first commandment is there is no other God except the Hebrew, the Jewish God. Does that maybe cause a little bit of an issue? Considering the Roman emperor is supposed to be a god now? See, in the places where people worshipped polytheistic gods, adding in the Roman emperor to worship him too wasn't a weird thing. It was like, okay, we'll take another one, whatever. But in somewhere like Israel, which, you know, Palestine, whatever you want to call it back then, where they have a monotheistic religion, and the very first law is there is only one God, and that is all you worship. Could that be an issue? The answer is yes. And not only that, it's a bigger issue once a young man is born in about the year 4 BC named Jesus of Nazareth. And we have the influx of Christianity. And that is where we will start next. Auf Wiedersehen. Bye.